Hello, everybody. Happy Thursday. How is everyone doing today? I am very excited to be here. It's been a while since I've had company for one of my lives, and so I love co-creating. And here I am with one of my just amazing collaborators, co-creators. Sophie Frabotta is here with me today. Hi, Sophie. How are you?
Hello, good. I'm so happy to be here with you.
I'm so happy to be here with you too. So Sophie and I are going live via StreamYard. So let us know you're here. You do need to give StreamYard permission to be able to comment, so we can see your comments. But say hello. Let us know who's here with us today. And so I am very careful, particular about where and who I refer people to, because I really think it's really important to, feel in alignment and have a high level of integrity. If I'm going to refer one of my clients to another coach or practitioner, I want to be sure that I feel really good about it. And so I have been over the past few years just, seeing who in my world feels like a good collaboration partner for those kinds of referrals. And one of the pieces that I get asked about often is, where people will say, I just, all of a sudden here I was just a Reiki practitioner or a, this kind of therapist or what have you. And they didn't expect that their clients would need a different level of support spiritually, that what would come up. And so I've always wanted to have a place to send them to say, this life coaching piece, or really it's just this life support piece, right? And so I'm really excited to have Sophie in my world, to have a place to send folks who either know they want to help others spiritually and maybe you don't have a particular modality yet, or you're noticing with your modality there's this other piece coming up. So I thought it would be great. Sophie's next round of her spiritual life coaching certification is open for enrollment, and she takes a really small group. And so she has said, let's see if there's anyone in your world that is interested and needs this kind of support. So I thought it would be great to have you on and talk about what does that even mean, spiritual life coaching, and how can people find out more. So with that long-winded introduction, I'm going to pass the mic.
Yeah. And, it's interesting, Sherry, because we are such a nice fit, because the things that people say at the end of my program are exactly what you do. It's like, oh my gosh, okay, I feel confident as a coach. I know the questions to ask. I know I'm like ready. How do I find my soul aligned clients? Like, what do I do next? And I'm like, our program takes people, into building their bio and their offer and, what they want to do, and how to build a website, but nothing about like marketing and getting yourself out there. It would just have made the training too long. And that's just not my specialty. So I like to say I'm really good at teaching people to sit in the seat, not like alert the world on, how to get them into the seat. Anyways. So I train spiritual life coaches. I have a spiritual life coach certification that I developed really with spirit. I got to a place in my business, in my practice, where I was booked to the seams. I had a waiting list, and I'm a highly sensitive empath. I'm clairvoyant. Having a waiting list sounds like it feeds the ego, but for somebody who's highly sensitive, it felt like a burden. It felt like I had not enough of me to actually serve the need. And it was a weight that I carried. And so I can remember, just in my meditation, kind of reaching out to spirit and saying, what do I need? What can I do? And that's where I felt like spirit started downloading, teach people this work, teach people this work. And I was like, how? And then I started hearing certification. And so I just went after it. And every module and lesson was kind of simultaneously downloaded. I actually was only halfway through creating the training when I launched it. So the other half came very organically through, what was coming up with that cohort and how spirit was working. And it's a very powerful experience that yes, I'm the vessel that it comes through, but it is so much bigger than me. And the people that come to this program, oh my gosh, I'm like so blessed to be able to be on their spiritual journey with them. They show up, they are ready, they do the work. And I'm blown away. I offer the program 3 times a year. So our final cohort for this year is graduating in a couple weeks. And it's always so bittersweet because I'm like, oh my gosh, I love you guys. And, I've been seeing them every other week for the past 5 months. And then all of a sudden it completes itself, And so then that's where I feel like you kind of come in because you're a great fit for what do I do next? A lot of people talk about that analogy, when you're on the airport and you're on that like fast walker and you're walking and you're going so fast and then you have to like get off and kind of recalibrate. That's what it feels like to people when they finish these kind of programs. Yeah. And so if we can support each other in sharing our resources, and if it aligns, if there's resonance, so that was the kind of vision that I had in collaborating with you, was just to like expand the journey further into what people are really looking for. That is not my specialty, and that's part of having a niche, is like, you clearly are like, here's what I'm good at and here's what I'm not.
So. Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's so important. And I love what you just talked about in terms of like, because I really promote that energy of like, you don't need to have it all figured out when you go to create, put your program out there, put your offer out there. In fact, I feel like it's better to only have the first little bit and to then be able to be in response, to respond to what's occurring, to allow the downloads to come through, all of those things. So I love that that's how you allowed this process to unfold for you with your certification. Every time I've tried to like map it all out, I get a few modules in and people are like, I'm lost, or something with like, and then I'm redoing all my work because, that's working from here instead of from here. So beautiful. So will you share and I know we've got a great resource for people to get more in depth than we can go today about spiritual life coaching. But I get this question, and someone actually popped in my inbox after I sent an email the other day and said, what does that even mean? And people ask me, what does it mean to be a spiritual entrepreneur? Because I say I support spiritual entrepreneurs. So I would love for you to share how you see that energy as a spiritual life coach. I mean, there's tons of life coaching certifications out there. And in fact, you could probably pay like $500 and get you could have something on your wall. And we won't talk about my opinion about that, but I'm not sure how that works. But anyways, let's talk about this idea of spiritual life coaching and what that container looks like, feels like, and how you approach it.
Okay. So the way that I talk about life coaching versus spiritual life coaching, I kind of like to take a step back even further. So therapy, right? Most people are familiar with therapy. What is therapy? I like to say that therapy answers the question, why am I where I am now? Life coaching asks the question, where do I want to go? Okay, so there's one reflection back, one reflection forward. That's like a typical umbrella concept. So then you have life coaches that are awesome, and they come into your world and they start helping you redirect thoughts and deal with stuff and make different decisions and set strategy and goals, and they help you start moving forward. Beautiful. A spiritual life coach, however, sees that we have patterns and we have loops and we have things that need to heal because we don't come here problem-free. And we kind of come problem-free, but then we're bruised and hit and, get experiences that we don't know how to process. And then we carry that information in our cells, in our body, and it begins to block us. So side note, this is why I don't teach manifestation until week 16 of my 20-week program. This is Awaken Your Soul's Magic, a different program. Because if you start to learn manifestation before you've done spiritual healing, you will manifest your bigger blocks. So that may look like, let me manifest my soulmate. I get into a beautiful relationship. I'm feeling so good. And then I get rejected. Because ultimately, if I haven't dealt with my self-rejection, I'm going to manifest it through those different channels. So a spiritual life coach comes in and we work in two worlds. I like to say we work in the world of healing, actual healing, not therapy, healing, finding root wounds, detecting where that lives in your body, releasing that stale energy, reprogramming you with light so you can radiate your real truth. So we do the healing work, and then we also do the creation. Now, healing is not a linear path. It's messy. It's kind of all over the place. And so I don't necessarily teach templates. I don't teach someone to come in and ask these questions and go through this process because everyone's so organic. I teach tools. So by the time that somebody graduates, they have an array of tools that they can use depending on the situation. And so it's very spiritually guided. It's heart-based. It's, somebody comes into your presence. I had my coaches just this past week ask, how do I know if I'm ready, if I'm good enough? And I was like, your biggest role is to, one, care. You don't have to do anything but care and then deeply listen. Because if somebody is heard, they will start to feel safe. When they start to feel safe, their psyche will start to relax. When the psyche relaxes, the crap starts to come up. Mm-hmm. And now you have all these tools on how to help them deal with their crap. Those tools become exercises, redirections, new thought processes, but you have all these tools in your toolbox to use. So spiritual life coaching is a blend. It's a blend of removing the blocks, doing the healing work, and then helping them create the life that they want to live that feels in alignment with their soul, with their spirit, and with their heart. So.
Oh. I so appreciate those distinctions, and what I'm present to as you share all that is that the way you teach it and the way that you set your folks up for success is by teaching them to trust themselves, to be working with their own inner guidance. That this is not like, you don't want to work with Sophie. I say this about myself too. If you want a cookie cutter formula, you're in the wrong place. In my world or Sophie's world, we teach a framework. And what I love about a framework is full of tools, and then you choose what works for you, but you have this framework, this foundation to support you and your clients and your business going forward, instead of when we rely on a formula. Okay, first I do this with my client, then this, and then this, and then this. We miss what is really coming up in the moment. Because we get in our head versus in our heart. So I so appreciate that. And I've seen like these, $500,000 programs, they're just teaching a formula. And that's for me, the difference that spiritual entrepreneurs understand, and choose to work from their heart and then their head, that they choose to listen to their intuition, to their knowing, trusting that there is something, that they have the wisdom, and so do their clients. And so that's for me the difference. And I love that that's how you approach it. But I can also see why, because I know my folks too will get into this space of like, well, how do I do this? What is the right next step for me? And that's where I'm like, let's drop in and find out. Let's ask.
Yeah. And I just wanted to say something about spiritual entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
So when I was getting my master's, I did my thesis on being a spiritual entrepreneur. And what that really meant to me was it, like, in a paragraph instead of a long document. I like to say that a spiritual entrepreneur is a profit-driven, heart-led business model. Mm-hmm. So that means that the ideas come from the heart. They have to move into the head. They have to go through a strategy. And ideally, they would be profitable so that you can keep your lights on, you can pay your staff, you can support whatever. I mean, having a business is an entity and it takes money to run it. And having money left over at the end of the day to reinvest is a nice place to be. So I have a for-profit model. I do not teach donation-based business. You know, that is something that I've had coaches say, well, what do you think about this model? That's not my skill. That's not my niche. So I encourage them to research it and find it. That's what they're feeling called to. Go after that. But I am for profit. So there are times on the path where I will offer a scholarship because the heart is encouraging me to. And the profit is already being made in these other places. So it gives me room to actually offer this work to these other individuals who either reach out individually. I mean, I still make them go through a process. I don't just give things away. I've learned the hard way. You know, people don't value free.
Yeah.
They value their investment. And so, you know, scholarships always have things around them. Just to make sure that the commitment is really there. But being a spiritual entrepreneur to me basically means that it's heart-led, but it does mesh with the head.
Absolutely.
It is profit-driven, but the heart is kind of always the ruler and the final say.
Absolutely. I talk about it as bottom-up processing. Like, we're taught that business is supposed to be from here, and then we get into this, it's like this kind of energy when our head's trying to lead the way. So absolutely. And I so appreciate, because in my world too, if you don't want to make money, then I'm probably not the person that you want to work with either. I say your prosperity serves the world. And then the more prosperous and the more abundant you are, the more ease you have in your own being. And then you can do what you're saying. You can offer scholarships. You can do pro bono work. But the spirit wants you to take care of you first. And if your energy is stressed and anxious, you're going to set a frequency that isn't going to attract any soul clients except people that are in lack themselves.
Right.
And so choosing abundance and prosperity is really important. And I think it's so valuable that when you take a course, a certification, learn a modality, that whoever's leading that course and whoever energy has created it is in alignment with you, that you do choose. Yeah, don't go work with Sophie if you want a donation based, if you feel like as a spiritual entrepreneur, I need to give it away. If then you're not an entrepreneur, you are a spiritual nonprofit. I don't know what's the word?
Saint.
You're a saint. God bless you.
Yes.
God bless you. Please go and do your work in the world. And in whatever way that is, as long as you feel that there's some reciprocation for it. So I love that. Thank you for saying that.
Yeah. And it brings up that topic of scarcity, right?
Yeah.
Like the frequency of scarcity is so prevalent in the spiritual world.
Yes.
It's very interesting. I mean, it's not something that it's something I've overcome tremendously. But it's always very interesting to me to talk about this. And this is a polarizing topic, you know, when you can say, you can take your spiritual gifts, you can take your God-given heart-led gifts and have it support your entire life. There is pushback there. People are going to say why should I charge? Why should I do that? It was given to me, you know? And then I think about like major, like, singing professionals. I'm not even sure, musicians, there we go. You know, like they're very abundant. That's a God-given gift.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
they become very abundant, you know? And so I'm really big during the program as we address a lot of those frequencies that are blocks, like scarcity, insecurity. And, you know, ultimately there's a space of just pure self-rejection that unfortunately is threaded through a lot of women in our culture, globally. I mean, it's not just the US. And so I feel like when we address those three bigger, I call them big daddies, the big daddy vibrations, and really shift into what I call soul love, not just self-love, right? But soul love, where you identify with the divinity living within you so much that there's no other way than love. And then we turn that scarcity into prosperity and like an overflowing. I am so full that I just overflow my gifts into these people, and it affects them positively, and they reciprocate that gratitude through payment or through some sort of, you know, offering. So Yeah, I'm very passionate about all these topics and doing the
Yeah.
healing.
And even in my private say, I don't, it's like, I always say, in fact, I was chatting with one of my clients right before this, and, she was parroting back some of the things I say, which is, it's an inside job, and we need to be patient with the forming. So this business piece is always an inside job. And every step along the way, then, when folks get into my world and they're ready to take their work out into the world, it is that, not trusting themselves, not believing in themselves. And so I spend just as much time helping people create a framework for their business as I do helping them to really learn to tap in and listen. And we start in a place in my program that people are like, why are we doing this? And I'm like, just trust the process. Because I know that it begins and ends with awareness, and we need to know what's coming up for ourselves, because we're at a growth edge. Like your folks that's why they're like excited to get out in the world, but this is this growth edge, right? And we get into fight or flight. So dropping back into ourself, into our tools, and having tools to move through that is so powerful. So I love that. I know at one time you said to me when we first were chatting, you were like, maybe I do too much, healing work with my folks. I was like, oh, heck no. No way you can do too much. We can't, because every time we hit a growth edge, there's an opportunity to heal. And when we're learning new things and we're stretching ourselves and we're stepping into the next part of our journey here, there's a healing that just is available to us. And I believe the best support is where we can meet people at that and give them an opportunity to move through that with as much grace and ease as possible.
Absolutely. Yes. I love that growth edge.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I've always said, heard and then repeat. It's not necessarily my saying, but the leading edge is lonely. When you start to go into that leading edge, that space where not everyone is, there's not a lot of people around. And that's why it's so important in that moment to have self-love, to have soul love, because you at least got you.
Yeah. Yeah. Because we can't see, I talk about it as that growth. You can't see around the corner. We don't know what's next. So it's a leap of faith, and it's trust and loving ourselves enough to say yes to what we don't know is possible yet. And so, yeah, it begins and ends with love. It begins and ends with awareness. And so it's a gift. And so, yeah, I love and appreciate that you infuse all of this in your programs, because I know that that's how, when your folks step out into the world and work with others, they're so prepared for what's to come.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. I mean, that's the goal, is to, like I say, if you haven't gone to the depth of your soul, how are you going to take somebody else there? If you haven't faced your darkness in the eye and seen that speck of light, how are you going to see it in somebody else's darkness? And so it's like, we have to go to those places. This is what I believe truly turns people into authentic spiritual life coaches, is that we have gone to those places in our own soul. We are not perfect. We are not healed. We are an in progress being,
Yes.
But we have the courage, and we've done enough of the groundwork that we understand the territory. And so that's when you can be a guide or a Sherpa. I like to say sometimes we are just a Sherpa guiding them up the mountain, and they are making the calls, and we're pointing things out and making sure they have snacks, but they're the ones walking up the mountain. And anytime somebody's like, oh my gosh, you've changed my life, I'm like, you changed your life.
Right. Yeah, I say the same thing. It's my job to be that guide, that mentor, and to hold space for what's possible and to reflect back what I see here. But it all has to go through your own filter, and you're the one doing the work. I'm just the one here cheering you on. I'm your biggest cheerleader, because I can see what you can't see in yourself yet. That's and that's the best, I think, kind of mentor that we can be, is to just hold space for someone's own journey. So who might be like the not perfect, who's an ideal energetic match for just getting curious about, is Sophie's life coaching certification, spiritual life coaching certification, the right avenue? Who are your people typically? What are they looking for? What are they desiring?
I think a big thing, a big trend is people want more empowerment. It's like they know they have something, but maybe they feel a little weak, or they feel a little pulled back, or a little silenced or something, but they know they have this power inside that wants to emerge. And they want to learn how to put it together. They also might be having some signs like, oh, I just like heard spirit guide me on this and then it happened, or oh, I saw something and then it, came to fruition. These are your spiritual gifts opening up. That's a big part of what we work on. So I have like 18 to 20 spiritual gifts that typically walk through our programs. And in the beginning, people identify with about 2 of them. And in our very final call, they do something that shows the spiritual gifts that they have now, and I go through that. And most people are checking anywhere from 8 to 15 of the boxes. So what happens throughout the process is they become so much more aware of their spiritual gifts. But back to your actual question, people that are looking to find that empowerment, somebody that feels in their heart, like right now, just has that nudge, like, I am meant to help people. I am meant to help people. But where the heck do I start? Like, where do I start? Or maybe they're even like a massage therapist that is noticing that the conversations after the sessions are lengthening and they don't really have the questions to ask. And so they feel like they're giving advice. Like one of the things I say is, as coaches, we don't give advice. We're not here for advice. We ask questions and we lead other people to their own inner answers. That is our job. So, like I see that practitioner after a session that just feels a little unequipped with how to guide that space. Those people would do phenomenal in our program. And I like to say also our cohorts, I know you run like your little cohorts as well. They all get a name. And they all are very, very, very special. They like call in. I mean, I believe that you signed up for your cohort long before you see me or have met me. And it's about these ladies on their own journey together in this little cocoon. And if you feel called, you kind of know it. And so all I encourage you to do is pay attention to the yes in your heart. If you feel it and you feel called in, pay attention. Everything will line up. We have people across, time zones. We have people all over the world, and somehow we always all come together. Like, it is magical. And so if you want to step into that type of spiritual magic, dive into your spiritual healing and take yourself to the next level, this is a program that could help you do that.
Yes. And I'm going to put up and I'll put this in the chat as well. So, and there's another post up above in the group, but Sophie's put together a beautiful short that walks through more of this questions and that you might have, so that you can just take 20 minutes on your own time and just really listen to all the parts and pieces, the questions she knows that we can't get to all of them today. But take a look at that. And then if you feel called, fill out an application. I encourage you to have a conversation to see if energetically, like what you're leaning into is the next best step for you. I, like Sophie, believe that, it needs to be a match energetically, and we need to all feel like, and sometimes there's a knowing, but then there's like, is this really for me? If you're feeling any pull, take those next steps. It's worth a conversation for yourself, for your future clients, for you to, if these are tools, if there's a piece over here that's like, there's something I'm missing, then I invite you to get curious, which is always my invitation. Get curious, see what else might be there. There's limited spots. What I love, like Sophie, small cohort, which I so appreciate, because there is an amazing energy when you're not going to be one of 40 in this program. You're not going to get lost in the shuffle. You're not going to not get to be tapped by this woman's magic. You are going to get direct access to her magic, which is amazing. And so I encourage you to, if you feel resonant with her energy and you've got this little curiosity over here, to take a moment and check it out. So Anything else, my friend, that you would love to share as we wrap up?
I'm just so grateful. Thank you so much for, being who you are and doing the work that you do. I'm glad our paths have crossed and you made your way through my inbox that one time.
Right?
And I thank you for the work you're doing and for having me on today. Been a pleasure.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, I always, it's a gift when we get to bring, people come into our world that we're just so aligned with, and where there's this knowing. And Sophie and I didn't know exactly where we were headed or what was going to happen, but we're here. We both have a similar mission and belief. And so those are the people that I choose to co-create and collaborate with. And I wouldn't bring anyone into this group or into my inbox or your inbox that I didn't trust and believe in and have aligned values with. And so thank you for being you and doing the amazing work that you do in the world and supporting these amazing spiritual entrepreneurs on their path. So, all right, my friends. Well, I wish you all a beautiful rest of your day. If you have questions for Sophie, pop them in the chat, click on that link and learn a little bit more. And I will see you all next time. And remember, as always, all it takes is a little bit of heart power. See you all soon.